Fight. Welcome back to the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. Before we jump into today's interview with Ethan, aka Both Basketballs, first of all, drop him a follow and a like and a subscribe and all his content. Link in the description below. We talk about it on the pod as well, what he's doing. Ethan Alsobrooks. Give him a follow, like I said. We talk about some really cool stuff, as you see in the title, Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16, just everything that really transpired here in the last week and a half with college basketball. We preview the Final Four, we predict it, we talk about some of the storylines overarching for it as well, and then we get into a really fun draft that we did, NBA under 24-year-old. We create a starting lineup, 2 guards, 2 forwards, a center, a 6-man, and a head coach that has coached less than 5 seasons in the NBA. We really get into it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of our teams when we get to those. Really quick, before we jump into it, don't forget SeatGeek is the presenting sponsor of the Two Pointers Podcast. I know that Final Four tickets are really expensive. I went last year. It was an incredible experience, and $20 off was an incredible deal off of anything when you're going to be spending money, whether you're going to the Final Four or a concert or an NBA game or a playoff hockey game. Anything coming up in the future with sporting event or concert, SeatGeek got you covered. Link in the top of the description. Code 2Pointers, TWOPOINTERS. Remember, SeatGeek is one of the best ticketing apps out there on the marketplace. You get a deal score, you get a red, yellow, green scale, view of your seat. A lot of really cool features there for SeatGeek. So SeatGeek.com, link in the top of the description. Use code 2Pointers. That really does help support the show and helps me continue to put out as best content as I can for you guys. Again, talked a lot of really fun college basketball content with Ethan at Both Basketballs. All of his links will be in the description below. Huge shout out to Ethan for coming by and talking both basketballs with us here on the Two Pointers Podcast. Kind of a fun little crossover theme of our channels and of our content. So I really enjoyed it. Again, thank you to Ethan. Drop him a follow below. Enjoy the interview. All right, as you heard in the intro, we are joined here by Ethan Alsobrooks. Make sure I said that right. Didn't ask him, but we're going to get it right if it isn't. But also known as at Both Basketballs. That's how he was introduced through TikTok sometime in the last 3 years. This is, coming up on 3.5 years doing the podcast. So I'm excited to finally do a pod with you. And obviously, as you may have seen from some of the previous shows, we do a Trivia Showdown show in the summer. We haven't even done a pod yet, and I'm already inviting you back. So, hey, Amazing. Welcome. And looking forward to talking today. We're going to talk about the Sweet 16, Elite 8, just stuff that happened. It won't be like a deep dive into, San Diego State, UConn feels like forever ago now. We're not going to break down that 30-point loss for San Diego State. It's more of just what did we learn from it? How did it come to the fruition that we're at? How did it come to fruition and where we're at? And then Final Four preview, predictions, just some fun stuff that I think is good there. And then I haven't done NBA stuff in weeks now, and I know the whole point of having you on would be dumb not to do NBA as well. Yeah. So we're going to do a fun little draft, as people will see in the title, and just a draft of 20 guys that are under 24 and under. So a really nice display of some NBA players that really deserve some credit for some of the play that they're having right now. So without further ado, introduce yourself, let people know where they can find you and what you're working on, that kind of thing.
Yeah, my name's Ethan. You nailed the last name, Trevor. So credits to you for that. I go by Both Basketballs. You can find me on Twitter, TikTok. Been going on there for a while now. But just like you said with Trevor with your podcast, 3 years. I've been doing the same 3 years on mine. Really love just talking about sports. Really love talking about basketball, as I'm sure, Trevor, you can relate. We're excited to get into it for sure.
Anything in particular? I know obviously we're getting into the Final Four and stuff. Anything? Yeah. I know once the NBA kind of rolls around, it's just keeping up with, what does the daily TikTok look like for those that are going to check this out and follow you?
For sure. Yeah. So just today and tomorrow, you're going to see 2 rankings for the Final Four. You're going to see the Final Four coaches ranked, which I love to do every year, and then top 4 players in the Final Four, which I try to include one person from every team, trying to get the variety, but super excited stuff coming along the way. And then NBA heading into playoffs. I love the plan. I think I'm one of the few supporters I know, Trevor, I don't know about you, but the plan I think is one of the greatest additions we've had to the NBA. Where do you stand on that?
I have reached a point where now that I realize that it's just setting us up for at least giving us something to where it's not 1 versus 8 immediately. Mm-hmm. It's not like exactly. In the past, I don't know how to articulate this. I'm in the camp of I like it. I'm not
Hmm.
in love with it. I'm not like, I'm not as passionate, maybe it sounds like, as you might be about it. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and argue with anybody and say it's bad because,
Yeah.
like, I've been in positions where, like, I was in Charlotte a few years ago where I was in town for something completely unrelated to the podcast. And I was visiting friends and doing some other things. And I'm like, ooh, it'd be really cool if the Hornets could, like, the way the seating would work, they could be the home team. And then, like,
Uh-huh.
Atlanta ended up actually getting the home team. They basically flopped seating, and, like, the town was, no pun intended, the town was buzzing. Like, it was, like, really
Huh,
cool to hear people talking about, oh, we're going to have a play-in game, and da-da-da.
for
Like,
sure.
and that's obviously, we're talking about the Hornets here, too, right? I'm not trying to, throw dirt on the Hornets here, but the point is they were excited about it, and I was there, and I just wanted to go to a playing game and feel the environment, and it seemed like the environment would have been incredible. So I think it's kind of the budding end of what we want the in-season tournament to eventually be, right? Where at first nobody was excited about the play-in. It felt like everyone was kind of like, I don't
For
know,
sure.
this is kind of
Yeah.
dumb. And now it's like
Uh-huh.
all these they're playoff environments, and the in-season tournament, obviously, we saw in 1 year be kind of similar. So I think ultimately, I think I'm going to eventually warm up even more to both. I brought up both there, but the point is I'm with you. I think to answer your question in long-winded form. I do think I'm not as passionate, but I do think it's great. It gives us something to kind of clamor on to. I'd love to just jump right into the playoffs, but you're really not going to get those rounds. Some of those first round games aren't that great. They're really not, like
Yeah.
1-8,
No,
two
they
seven
aren't.
even. So it's good to have something that sets this up. And there's teams that play into desperation mode. So
On the other side of that too, we're talking playing right now, which is crazy. But
I know it's not. It's literally around the corner. So there it
true.
is.
On the other side of that, like you talk small market teams like Charlotte, I love the scenario, especially in the West this year, with like you could have a Golden State LA Laker playing game, and if you lose that, your season's over. So that's something I'm definitely excited for.
And we've seen teams like the Lakers were the year that they won the year that they made the Western Conference Final, last year, right? Weren't they, or 2 years ago? Or people were like trying to reseed, and the Clippers didn't want to play them or something.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, for
you start
sure.
to see the mental mind game there. I don't remember. I'm not tracing the history back properly, but the point being is teams look at it as a strategic advantage depending on their seeding. So
Yeah.
good clarity on the players ranked and the coaches thing for the Final Four, by the way, as that's obviously what we're going to lead with. Is the Final Four, Sweet 16, the Elite Eight kind of recap. I'll avoid kind of questions about ranking a player or ranking. The coach I
Yeah.
think is interesting. Look, for context, if you follow me and stuff, obviously, but for context, in case you don't know, diehard NC State fan. So a lot of my opinions today will not happen. They've already been out there. I did a full rant on everything college basketball the other day and just I went through all the emotions of everything. Like, it is what it is. I'm sure my audience wants to hear it, but there's a time and a place, and this is for you to talk about a lot of different things. And obviously, I want to hear an unbiased perspective. So we'll
For
get into that.
sure.
To help me out, do you have you're a Michigan fan? That's right.
I'm
I
a Michigan
remember. Light bulb
fan.
hit me as soon as I said it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh
For what it's worth, I married into a family full of Buckeyes, but
huh.
so
Hey, that's okay.
I don't have the same level of I don't know what word I want to use that's polite. Like, I don't have the same level of frustration. There we go. Frustration's fair. That maybe some of my in-laws might have. So anyway, players, coaches, like I said, we'll get into some of that stuff. What's the initial thoughts from what transpired in the Sweet 16 Elite 8, specifically having nothing to do with the Final Four? Just stuff that happened in the last, I guess, the weekend that just happened. Anything that stuck out to you that just maybe haven't talked about, dying to talk about, or just something that you took away that you were really surprised by?
Yeah. So first of all, I would love to talk about the Purdue Tennessee game. I think that was one of the best games we've seen all tournament long. Except, I mean, maybe you can take that last minute out, which was Edie just garnering points at the free throw line. That was something I could do without. But Purdue Tennessee, watching Connect play basketball is a thing of beauty. And I don't think a lot of people covered him, especially after the game. Edie gets all the attention. Connect is an amazing basketball player. He came from D2. A lot of D2 guys shining in the tournament this year. Jalen Wells, Washington State, an amazing player. Gosh, so just so much to take from that game. Purdue is amazing. Triangle sets with Edie, like I said, it's impossible to guard. I think in Tennessee with Ziegler, they were maybe the best defensive team I've seen play all tournament long. And I know UConn is another beast, but Tennessee really gave all they could in that game. And Edie just kind of dominated in that last 2 minutes too. He took the game over. I think Edie's been the best player this entire tournament.
Yeah, when you look at the way and look, I don't. We'll get into your Final Four picks and stuff originally in a
Yeah.
little bit here, but because I don't know them, I didn't look them up on purpose. So If you look at the way the Purdue part of that region fell, Purdue was the only team that I feel like had a chance of beating Tennessee. The
Yeah,
more I think about it, because obviously I'm assuming that Tennessee gets by Creighton. I'm assuming they get by Texas, right? Like when I filled out a bracket, I put them in the championship game. Like it just is what it is. I thought this was the year Dalton Connect, the whole thing. The question I'm kind of getting to or trying to figure out a way to allude to is like, is that result surprising to you? I know you mentioned some of the stuff like obviously Dalton Connect got gassed in the second half. Like that just
for sure. It
isn't
takes
going to help.
60% of the people's shots. Like that's going to do something to you.
But were you like when you walked away from that game? Do you feel like the right team won?
I do. I do. I think all season long Purdue has showed this kind of different intensity they've brought than past years. And well, they bring that same intensity with Big Ten play all year long, but I never really saw it in the tournament these past 2 or 3 years. And this game against Tennessee, if you don't bring intensity, you lose. I think just straight up. If you don't play, if you don't get the ball to Edey, Foster Loyer with a great game. I mean, he's been having a great all around tournament, passing the ball, shooting the ball when he needs to. I really think the right team won. And it's going to be an amazing game between NC State because I say this every year. When the Sweet 16 rolls around, you throw seeds out of the window. I don't talk about seeds at all. And NC State, I mean, they won the ACC tournament. They're looking like, I don't mean to switch teams too quickly, but normally ACC tournament teams are around a 1 or a 2 seed almost every single year, teams that win the ACC tournament. So 11 seed heading to the Final Four. I think it's NC State heading to the Final Four in my eyes.
It's a great way to put it. We'll get to them specifically because
I'd love to.
I have a whole bunch of things about the matchup and just things that I know people are going to want to talk about. One thing that stuck out to me that spurred, honestly, like I've thought about this for a while, but also the way you answered the Purdue Tennessee question, it made me think about it. So look, Dalton Connect, I'm not saying like he's this other world, like he was second best player in the country this year. I'm not trying to diminish that thought.
I agree.
But what I'm trying to relay is Rick Barnes has had Kevin Durant. He's had Dalton Connect. But there's a big gap between those two, right? Anything can happen any year. We've seen Alabama do it, right? This is their first time in the tournament. We'll get to them in a little bit, right? Tennessee's never made it to the Final Four. First time in the Final Four is what I meant to say on Alabama. But the point I'm making is, I mean, this felt like a chance to slip through Tennessee's fingers. Like, is this not something like Rick Barnes can end his career without a Final Four?
Yeah, and that's terribly sad because he's a hell of a coach. He really is, and he's recruited great players. He's coached great players. But yeah, they haven't got there. And I think Tennessee fans this year, especially when they beat Creighton, a lot of momentum went to Tennessee's way, and I think that's when the whole country kind of realized, hey, this team could win it all. And I just think that's a tough draw, to be all honest with you. You get Purdue and the Elite Eight, and that's a game. Hey, it's the Elite Eight. You're going to play a great team in any matchup you're going to play, and you lose. I mean, they hung tough. Zakai Ziegler, I don't think had his greatest game of the season. Didn't shoot that efficient, but defensively, you have to be there, and he was. You can't put Ziegler on AD. You know what I mean? So that's just a tough matchup in itself when your best defensive player has to guard Foster Loyer, has to guard, and I know even Edey. Was Adu on Edey most of the game?
Yeah, and he fouled out.
Yeah, see, that's tough in itself. And Edey's not going to have any foul trouble. You know, he's very apt at not drawing fouls. So it's tough in itself. Purdue fans, congratulations. Tennessee fans. Another thing with Houston, I know we can. If you want to switch, go ahead, Trevor.
No, good. I'm good. This is your show.
Houston, to me, had the toughest draw of the tournament, and obviously one of the toughest injuries we've seen in a while, and I mean years. Jamal Shed, probably the best defensive point guard other than Zakai Ziegler in the tournament. It's just brutal. It's just brutal. And Duke, you got to give credit to Duke because they were in that game from the beginning. You know, they weren't going to go down without a fight. And Proctor played great in those last minutes of that Houston game. Houston's defense gets all the credit in the world, but Tyrese Proctor in those last 5 minutes showed why he's going to be an NBA player, and it's that defense. And I know Duke's not even in the tournament anymore, but I can't let that game kind of slip by because that was another one of the greatest games I've seen in this tournament. Just a defensive battle.
No, it's a perfect answer and a perfect segue because the thought process, and I'm trying to avoid the Final Four teams if all possible because, like I said, they're going to get their own segment here in a minute.
Yeah.
But I think you kind of answered a little bit of what I was going to ask anyway. Was there a team that shocked you that's not in the Final Four? If it's not Houston, if that's the easy answer, because I guess the injury kind of takes the shock value out of it. Is there in any region, doesn't matter, like is there a team that just you sit here, whether it's a Final pick, not necessarily a Final Four pick you might have made, but is there just a team where you're sitting here going, I can't believe they're not here?
Arizona is a team that immediately jumps out. I thought this was the year for Arizona. Gosh, talk about a death lineup. In those last 5 minutes in the second half, they will if you're not making your shots, they will put you to bed. And I really think they got a terrible matchup. Arizona's a team Caleb Love. I've loved as a player, experienced March Madness player. You bring in guys that can really add to the equation. And another team, Baylor. I mean, Baylor losing to Clemson was shocking to me. Baylor, I loved players from Baylor.
Yeah, I think Arizona, from a shock value of they're a 2 seed, and we continue to see Tommy Lloyd's teams not get it done so far.
Yeah.
But the Dayton game, the only reason I'm saying I'm not shocked is the Dayton game, as much as I thought highly of Dayton. I say that and I picked Nevada to win. But the point of being is I watched Dayton multiple times this year in person. Like I was in on this Dayton team regardless of Malachi Smith not being there. But that Dayton team, getting it to a 10-point game in the final result there kind of gives a little sign of like Arizona does like to play with its food a little bit. And not that Clemson isn't like a team that they play with their food on. I think they showed that Clemson, they only lost to Alabama by 7. Like Clemson showed that they were there for a reason, right? And it's 100%. Not like I'm not going to say like I don't want to diminish what Clemson did against Arizona. It's just Arizona plays with its food, and that's exactly what happened. Was there a team that you were shocked didn't make it as far? I know you mentioned Baylor. That was probably the easy answer because I mean I feel like we all just scribbled them into the Sweet 16. But is there a team that you were just surprised by outside of Baylor?
No, I can give a little ripple of answer to that too. This is a team that lost in the second round. Washington State, I really believed in this year, and I think that it was a successful season, nonetheless. But you pull the tough draw with Iowa State in the round of 32. Washington State throughout the season looked like an Elite 8 team to me. Every game they played, honestly. You beat Arizona twice. You beat on the road and at home. You kind of take care of the Pac-12. No really big upsets Washington State suffered. Isaac Jones, to me, is a lottery-type player. I don't know why he's not getting that credit. Not really a lot of exposure either. Miles Rice, another player I absolutely love. Just a great point guard, man, when it comes down to it. Can pass the ball. And then Washington State, to me, had one of the best depths in the entire March Madness, truly. And you pull a tough card with Iowa State. They were in that game too. 7-point game, I think, with 6 minutes to go. But that was one team, I think, maybe if they pull the 6 seed, maybe if they get that 6 seed and they play a 3 seed, maybe they get Baylor, in that round of Sweet 16. Maybe they can get past that. But that's one team I think I could have seen made it a little bit farther, at least to the Sweet 16.
I hate to say this because it's the final year of the Pac-12, but just like I don't think the schedule was tough enough. Like I don't think they got to learn about themselves, and like they had to play a team like Iowa State. They did not play a team like them the entire year.
No, absolutely right.
To your point about not having that many bad losses, they really only have 3, and I'm just considering a bad loss, as subjective as this sounds, anything higher than 100 on KenPom, if they're rated at the 39th spot, so you have to call anything that high pretty bad. Santa Clara on December 16th, neutral site, they lost by 8. I don't know if that's necessarily bad. Santa Clara's 109th. Their worst one by definition would be Arizona State. They lost 73-61. That was right after they went on like almost a 10-game streak. And then
that was right after Arizona game, wasn't it?
Correct, yeah. So, I mean, look, and then Washington's not a bad loss either. So the point being is Cal, Arizona State, and Santa Clara are the only 3 bad losses. So I don't feel like had enough adversity is probably where I land with that. And I just feel horrible because I love the Pac-12. I love everything about it, the late night, especially the football, like just everything about it that it is. And
are you a fan of Luke Walton?
Luke Walton, as in the ex-Laker player? Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Lakers fan, so yeah, I love Luke Walton.
What about Bill Walton?
Yeah, the commentary I can do without, if that's what you're referring to. No, I love Luke. I mean, Luke was an all-time favorite. They're playing with Kobe, so you know how Lakers fans are. They love the little guy. They love the 8th man that no one really knows about that ends up playing 22 minutes in a playoff game, and you're like you guys didn't know about Luke Walton? Oh my god! And then of course the coaching career didn't work out, but at least not as a head coach. But anyway, I digress on Luke Walton. I'm trying to think of anything else that like that because I don't want to sit here and keep talking about disappointment. Surprised by this, surprised by that. Was there a team that you predicted that maybe they didn't make the Final Four? We'll get to that in a second. But was there a team that made the Elite Eight, made the Sweet 16, made a run that you were like, I got that one right and I'm proud of that one?
For sure. I mean, I won't say Elite Eight, but I'll say Oregon as a team. Oregon is 11 seed. 11 seeds did work this tournament. Oh my gosh. And I think only one 6 seed won, which was Clemson. And then they go to the Elite Eight, which is crazy in itself. But Oregon to me was a team before they go through the Pac-12 looking very well at the end of their season. Dante has been obviously, you can talk a bunch about him.
But
No, yeah. So Jermaine Couisnard was one of the tournament best players, and he's only played probably 2 games. And he dropped 40 in the first round matchup. Just crazy stat. Someone dropped 40 in the first round matchup. I wonder when the last time that happened. Trevor, do you know? Last time someone dropped 40 plus?
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, no, I don't know off the top of my head either. But Oregon, to me, they were playing well. I liked them in the first round, liked them in the second round even better. And you draw a tough 2 OT loss. That's just up in there, a loss against Creighton. That could have gone either way. Yeah.
Probably off the top of my head, I love trivia, so this is me just like pulling it
For
out
sure.
of my head. I haven't pulled up. I found it fast enough. Women's history. Just kidding. Well, I mean that's awesome too, but not
Yeah.
the answer I'm looking for. It's because Audie Crooks just did it the other day for Iowa State, so that's why it's prevalent. Let's see. High scoring games in NCAA history. That's individual points of teams. Yeah, everything that pops up is the Cousinard stuff. So, and then the women's stuff. Yeah, I don't look. I'm trying to. Let's see. It's all team stuff that keeps pulling up. I'll find it at some point.
Yeah.
But no, that is interesting. It's probably a Steph Curry game popped up. So I doubt it's Steph. I doubt he was the last one. But my immediate guesses were Jimmer Fredette and Doug McDermott. Those were the first 2 guys that came to my head.
Did EDF 39? Yeah, I know it was a late game.
I think it was 30. Oh, no. He had 40 and 16, I think, officially.
Jeez.
So technically it happened twice, right? Technically it happened twice this year. All right. Anything else? Just, kind of like how we opened it. Anything else about the Sweet 16 Elite 8 that just stuck out to you before we kind of move on to the Final Four?
For sure. Well, we can talk about UConn's dominance a little bit, and especially their second half dominance, which is another thing NC State can hold to themselves. 2 terrific second half teams. Something interesting to me was San Diego State in that first half. I think we're in it. They were really in that ball game. Ledee looked amazing, as he has all season. And then UConn, you kind of just see the defense take hold, and you'll see San Diego State just right to start that half. It didn't look good at all. Three straight nothing possessions, and then UConn scores, I think, 3 straight times. Just bad basketball, but in itself, UConn's causing all of that. San Diego State is a team to me that I loved, and they got to I think they're part of college basketball's elite now. I think it's time we put them in that conversation, and UConn completely dismantled them in that second half. And I talked a bit about parity in one of my TikTok videos, but I think we can talk about it more here. I think we're finally starting to see a gap in 1 seeds with Purdue. I mean, Purdue has the same kind of track record this tournament as UConn does. They beat up on this incredible Utah State team that I thought was the best team in the Mountain West. And the Mountain West gets so much respect and so much credit, and Purdue beat them by 40 points. Like, are we finally starting to see this parity between 1 and 8 seeds, between 1 and 4 seeds even, that is in this different realm that we haven't seen before in Madness?
Yeah, there's a whole can of worms that I'd love to unpack, but I've already done it 42 times about the Mountain West. Just regardless of what the Mountain West results were, the seeding was still not fair. I mean, it Utah State 8 seeds dumb. Was there any upsets? I don't think I've asked you this. Was there any upsets that I know I mentioned that you were proud of, or like in the first round, but was there any that you couldn't believe didn't happen? Like, example, a lot of people picked the Drake one. That's your example, I guess. Everyone picked Drake Washington State, right? And it sounds like you weren't in that camp. But was there an upset that you were just like, I can't believe that didn't happen?
Yeah, there was, for sure. I really liked, there was an upset. I'll give myself some bad juju first. I was all on the wire on BYU. And I know this isn't the question you asked, but BYU was a team to me that I thought had a very potentially amazing run in them. And you hate to see that cut short. And then you hate to see, I mean, Duquesne played great, but I don't really love to see Duquesne lose by 30 to Illinois. That kind of region in March Madness just isn't really that appealing to me. But a March Madness bracket upset that I definitely thought would happen, that didn't. Gosh, I gotta go with the majority here and go New Mexico over Clemson. And I hate to do that because Clemson made their way to the Elite Eight, but New Mexico was so good.
So valid.
Yeah,
it's valid.
This team looked like they were going places. And then, I mean, Clemson's defense and then tough twos. That's what I like to call it. Tough layups won them that game. And I can't even say New Mexico played that bad of a game because the first half they were kind of inefficient, but second half they were kind of in it a little bit, I would say. But Clemson dismantled them 100%. And I would love to see New Mexico pull off that upset, but it goes to show another Mountain West team that completely gets dismantled.
Yeah. Talking about going places, I had them going to Phoenix. So
yeah, as with many other people too.
I had an 11 seed in the Final Four, and it sure as heck wasn't the one I thought made it. So yeah, that's a good one. I'm glad that's a good way to land the plane on that one. So to kind of segue us into the Final Four, what were your Final Four picks when you submitted? Obviously, you may have submitted 5,200 brackets like everyone probably does, but what was the you probably made one. I think you did a video series about it potentially, or picking a whole bracket or something. Even if you didn't, what was your Final Four picks of the best bracket? Your best bracket, I guess, if you want to call it.
Yeah, for sure. So I had Tennessee firmly in my Final Four, and as I'm sure you said you did as well. And to me, when I look at that game between Purdue and Tennessee, it could have gone either way, like you said. I think it was Purdue's game to lose in itself, but I had Tennessee, and then I also had UConn in the West. I believe that was the West region,
East.
Right? Or remember the East? I'm sorry.
You're good. Yep.
In one of the most gut-wrenching regions I have ever seen. And I think Dan Hurley pointed that out as well, kind of clapping back at the committee. But San Diego State, Final Four team, FAU, Final Four team, even though they lost under the Western, still, that's respectable. And to see kind of UConn just blaze through that is very, very impressive. And then I had Houston and Arizona and the other two teams in the Final Four. And I'm still mad about the Shed injury. I think if Shed's there, so many second half turnovers, especially in the backcourt for Houston's offense, which, I mean, that's directly a result of Shed not playing. And you could see it just gut wrenching on the sidelines. And then Arizona, just another team I really liked. I thought the Pac-12 was really underrated this year, so I went with the best team in the Pac-12 in my eyes to get to the Final Four. The Pac-12 did fine this tournament. I mean, they won first-round matchups. Good. Oregon went to the Sweet 16. But yeah, 1 out of 4 UConn, and then Tennessee with the Elite Eight. So definitely could have gone better, but I'm fine with this hectic tourney to get at least one team right, I should say.
So the whole point of the exercise that I'm glad that we laid out was that there are people that are going to gloat about their 3 of 4 Final Four teams or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the problem is there ain't a lot of those people because UConn, Alabama, 1 versus 4, NC State, Purdue, 11 versus 1. Most people have 2 right now. If we're just being honest about the fact that there's 2 1 seeds there. We both went 1 for 4. So I had UConn playing New Mexico. I had Houston playing Tennessee. Right? So not super far off there other than New Mexico being kind of the one weird one for me. You had a bunch of 1s and 2 seeds, which is totally valid. I just wanted to kind of lay out the fact that shows you just even with the parity you mentioned, it's kind of incredible to see where we've ended up, where regardless of the seeding, I know you made a great point about the seeding being thrown out the window, but they are the eyesore in that equation. When you look at the numbers, You're like, oh, all right, 11 seed. I don't have a workshopped name for this game yet, but we're going to play a game. We're going to call it X Factor, whatever.
Let's do it.
I can't figure out a better name. If UConn does blank, and now we're going to be kind of previewing the actual games themselves, so UConn, Alabama is where we'll start. If UConn does blank, they beat Alabama. One thing or X factor that they do, could be person, could be a performance, but if UConn does blank, they beat Alabama.
If they make 3s, they beat Alabama. I think convincingly too. And they haven't shot the ball well at all this tournament. I think they're shooting below 30% from 3, and they've downright dominated. If they make their 3s, I don't think that game's close, in my opinion. Now, I think we could see a close first half. But I'm not going to let history kind of mistake what I'm trying to say here. UConn has completely dominated, and they've beat amazing teams in this tournament. Like, I think there's going to be a ripple effect, another argument with UConn saying, hey, San Diego State's not a good team, a mid-major team. They are. Like, San Diego State is well coached. They have depth. They could go 1 through 8, honestly, in their lineup. So if UConn makes their threes, they will beat Alabama.
To your point, 28.1% in the
Jeez.
tournament so
that's
far.
like, that's horrid.
It's crazy because they've never, no one's ever been up 30 on all 4 games. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, and it just reminds me, like, there's a bunch of these crazy parallels with states running 83 and all this stuff. I'm not going to dive into that, but the point is those teams are beatable, right? I'll give you a perfect example. 2021 Baylor against UConn, right? That was an undefeated Gonzaga team. We thought there's no way they lose. They're a 1 seed. They're going to dominate everybody, and Baylor beats them.
Yeah.
So I just think it's awesome that they're undefeated, or undefeated. UConn's not undefeated, but that they're undefeated in this tournament and an incredible team, obviously so far. But I'm trying to make sure that it's known that, like, people realize, like, they are beatable. It's just a matter of someone's got to play their perfect game, which is a segue to if Alabama does blank, they beat UConn.
If Alabama defends, they beat UConn. And that's really all it comes to it. Like, I wish I could say going a little bit more with depth, but if they defend, if UConn shoots 20% from 3, if they make UConn actually have some grit in their offense. So many times in this tournament, I've seen UConn score within the first 4 to 5 seconds of the shot clock, or first 10 seconds. If they don't let UConn do that, they have a chance. If they make this a grit and grind kind of game, which I know is what Alabama does not want to do, but I don't think you can get a track meet with UConn, even if you're Alabama, even if you're scoring 90 points a game. I think you lose that game. So if this game is in the 60s, if this game's in the low 70s, and if UConn doesn't shoot the ball well, if Alabama kind of gets their post in, if their zone is working well, I think they can compete for a championship game matchup.
Let's get through all 4 of these, and then we'll do predictions and some other last-second storylines here before we get into the NBA stuff. If Purdue does blank, they beat NC State.
If Purdue does what they've been doing, they beat NC State. If they get either the ball, if their shooters are open, and if they play defense, they will beat NC State. And I think on the other hand, UConn Alabama to me is more decided than Purdue NC State. I really think NC State has a chance to be in this game. O'Connell to me is your saving grace. The way he plays basketball has saved your guys' season, literally. DJ Burns also needs to be. I don't even think we'll see DJ Burns on Edey in my eyes. I think Diarra will be on him in most cases.
I brought this up yesterday on the ECB podcast. Yes, like, I don't understand the sentiment that people are making about. Like, I hate to cut you off, but it needs to be said, and I'm glad that you said it. Diarra and Middlebrooks will be on Edey the entire game, and they'll even play. Don't be surprised. I'm just put this out there now. You can remember this on Saturday. They'll even put in like a guy like Ernest Ross, who hasn't played much this last couple of months, but he played in the HC tournament in some spots they needed him in when they got big trouble, foul trouble. He's a body that if he plays 5 minutes and has 5 fouls on Edey, that's 5 less fouls on the other guys. I think they'll play him. If he checks into this game on Saturday, I want a text from anybody that has my number that listens to this podcast. I want a text that says just like a thumbs up. Like, Ernest Ross is in the game, or a gif of him doing this on the bench when Jim Boeheim said those stupid comments.
Nice.
Anyway, keep going. O'Connell X Factor. I agree with you. I'm glad that you elaborated on what they've been doing, because like you just said it, and I'm like, I know they're really good. And that's kind of the point, but I like that you elaborate on that. But
yeah, no, for sure. I think if O'Connell makes 2 threes in this game, NC State could be up as well, because O'Connell can shoot the 3 ball well. It's just spacing, and I think he really matches up well. How tall is he, Trevor? Do you know? I'm not entirely sure.
He is
like
not
6'2",
as
maybe?
tall as you think he is.
Okay.
Yeah, let me look him up real quick. That's a good question. 6'2". Yeah.
Okay, so him on Foster, that's an immediate advantage, because I think Foster is only 6 foot. And if that's the matchup, I like that a lot in terms of just backcourt. A ton to get into with this matchup. Diarra, it's not Diarra. Hopefully, you could see it in this last game too. And I know Ramadan was happening, but I think obviously he'll be more energetic. He'll have more fluids in him, hopefully.
It ends on April 9th. It ends
Oh
the
my
day after the
gosh.
championship game. I just looked it up. I knew
Oh,
where you were going with it. I was like, let
yeah.
me just look it up. It ends the day after the national championship
Okay. Well, I
game.
mean, he's still a beast nonetheless. He's
Well,
still
no,
a beast nonetheless.
they have the night. Well, they don't have the night game. You're right. That sucks. Wow. Yeah,
So you
think about
can't give
this.
that IV to him.
If they get the night game, that and like they can give him like there's certain fluids they can give him water, that kind of thing. But like
Yeah.
I know there's restrictions. I'm not a Ramadan expert, but like that's so ironic that like God forbid they end up in the place on Monday, and I'm not even going to say it. God forbid they make it that far, and all this stuff happens, and the way to celebrate is, hey, this big religious event is over with, and you can finally eat. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of funny and fitting that it's literally the day after the national championship game. But I knew we were going there. He is really fatigued. Like you can see it in those games. What's crazy though is like, of course, I've sat down and watched every single game and every single second of this run. But my point is, whether people have or haven't, you're going to see the fatigue, but you almost don't like it. Doesn't every now and then it'll bother him. Like you can tell that as long as they stay out of foul trouble, he gets the rest that he needs in those spurts.
Yeah.
Which I think has really helped, and I think that's going to be a huge help this game because this game is like 6:09 Eastern. So
Middlebrooks has been a savior with that as well. I mean, 100%. Middlebrooks has had a great tournament defensively. 100%. And then, I mean, if he's good for like 6 points a game too, isn't he, this tournament run? Which, I mean, that's a lot.
Career high 17 a couple
weeks ago. Jeez. So, oh my gosh. So Middlebrooks and Diarra are, I think, a strong point against this Purdue offense. And I think that's one of the reasons why they will be able to stay in this game.
Yeah, Middlebrooks had 21 against Texas Tech.
Jeez. Game and a half.
Him and O'Connell, as funny as this sounds, both averaged 5.8 points per game this year.
Oh my gosh.
Just gotta be there and be contributors.
I'm wondering, so when NC State was down and out, when they had that large losing streak, who was scoring points? Was it Burns?
Yeah, Burns in the backcourt. Casey and DJ have been incredible this year. Like they don't win this game if the backcourt doesn't show up. Like because here's the thing, like the 6-year senior point that people have kind of made all year about like look at some of these teams and like Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer are kind of the outlier a little bit because they're sophomores.
Yeah.
We have two. I'm trying to stop saying it, but State has 2 6-year seniors in the backcourt that A can defend and B can score.
Yeah,
that's immediately a 1 million advantage over Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith, who have been incredible this year. That's not to diminish that. I'm just saying, like State's backcourt is going to be incredible. They're going to have the I talked about this yesterday on ECB. Like I said, I've made a lot of these points already. That's why I'm trying to like leave it out there, but. They've got the better guards, the more experienced guards, and the better defensive guards. They have that matchup completely won right this second.
Yeah.
Problem is Zach Edey exists.
Yep. Definitely an outlier. Like you really can't prepare for a player like Zach Edey. And coaches even come on their halftime report and said that. You can't really prepare for a guy like that. I think Diarra and Middlebrooks, though, if they can limit him, you can't let Edey score, I think, above 35 points in this game. You just can't. Yeah. And if they can limit him to under 30, I think that's fine. And if NC State's backcourt does their thing, if Marcel is hitting those mid-range jumpers like he has been doing, that's been huge. I think they can win this game. I think NC State can win.
Just gotta throw this out there. 2022, 11-21. The NC State Wolfpack were. They played a team named Purdue on December 12th. Who was 14th in KenPom at the time, 82-72 overtime loss on a neutral court.
Jeez. There you go.
Completely different team. Like, just looking at the teams really quick. One guy on that team is on this team now. So,
you said 2021?
2022.
2022. Interesting.
Yeah, so one guy on that team. Casey Morcell was the only guy on that team that's still on the team now. So that plays significant minutes. So just going to throw the result out the window is my point. All right. If NC State does, you kind of alluded to most of it, O'Connell, X Factor, whatever, but just if there was to answer the formality of the game, whatever. If NC State does blank, they'd be Purdue.
Simply enough, they have to stay out of foul trouble, which is admittedly very hard to do.
That's fair.
If Diarra racks up like 2 early quick fouls, and then you get Middlebrooks in the game with like 15 left, and he racks up 1 to 2 fouls, which is entirely possible with Edey. Like it really is.
Big time. Then
you get into kind of a nightmare scenario where you have to maybe put Burns on Edey for a couple possessions. or I mean, like you said, who was the player you said that would come in? I'm sorry.
Ernest Ross.
Ernest Ross.
It's okay. You don't know who it is. That's the whole point.
Ernest Ross coming in, and it's just not a good scenario for anyone to have 2 fouls with 5 minutes left or like 10 minutes left in the first half. And I think you could really see that in this game. And Purdue, I won't say this, but I think Purdue kind of uses it as a strategy, as they should. Every game in this tournament, whether it's Great Alzobar on Utah State or even shoot, I'm forgetting Tennessee's big man. I do.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
He fouled out completely.
Yep.
Purdue will take advantage of foul trouble, and they most definitely won a Final Four game as well. So if NC State stays out of foul trouble, especially in the first half, because if you have obviously it's a Final Four game. If Diarra picks up 4 with 5 left in the second half, he will be playing. Yeah. So
100%.
The first half is going to be important with foul trouble, as it always is with any game, but especially with this NC State front court.
To give you an idea how it's okay that most people don't know who Ernest Ross is, he has played per game this year. He's played 14 games this year and averaged 3.4 minutes per game. The whole point I'm making is he played 11 and a half last year per game. He's a body. He's averaged 0.8 blocks last year. So, like, he's a body that can just be out there. They're not expecting him to do anything. At that point, I know how, teams don't go super deep in these, once you make it this far, right? You're playing your best guys. But Zach Edey makes this a unique opportunity where they have a guy that all he has to do is just be in there, defend, and take a foul if he has to. So, my point is, don't be surprised if he doesn't play. He played 11. The last time he played more than 2 minutes a game, or in a game, was against Pittsburgh on March 9th. So before the ACC tournament even started. So he played 2 minutes against Carolina, scored a bucket, and played. He checked in for the Marquette game, but it didn't even register as a minute. So
he must be tall. Is he like 6'9" or above?
6'9", 190. Yep.
Okay.
6'9", 190.
So I mean, like you said, that's a body who can defend.
It's the only reason I'm bringing him up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's predict, and then I have one more question based on the predictions, and then we'll get into the NBA draft thing. That'll be really fun here. So we'll start with Alabama, UConn. Who wins? Why? And like a 30-second why there, just kind of like a, just an explanation on it, and then we'll get to the other matchup in a second.
Yeah, so UConn over Alabama. I do have UConn advancing. I think UConn wins because their backcourt is just too much to handle. And I will say it's incredibly impressive last game that Mark Sears had 21 points and he didn't shoot 1 free throw. That's impressive. So Stephen Castle is an NBA lottery prospect, and I think he will show it. And UConn's defense, even if they don't make threes, which very well could happen, they could shoot 30% from 3 and still outright win this game. Alabama has played enough offense for them to win this game, but I don't think Sears really has that greatest advantage in this game as he did with previous games. I think UConn's backcourt is tall. They're athletic. They will get after you defensively. I think UConn wins pretty decisively. In my case, UConn heads to the national championship game.
All right. On the other side, don't care that I'm here. Just make the honest pick. Purdue, NC State, who wins and why?
For Purdue versus NC State, I will be taking the NC State. I will be taking the Wildcats. Right? Did I say NC State Wild? Well, oh my gosh. Jeez.
Nevada.
My mind is everywhere right now. Yeah.
It's all good.
For Purdue versus NC State, I will be taking the Wolfpack to advance to the national championship game.
Christ.
I love it. I love it. With a Final Four as crazy as we've seen this year, I'm ruling the seeds out. I do not care that they're 11 seed. The team that I've seen this past month is one of the best in the nation. They've showed it this entire tournament. I think they take Purdue down. That backcourt, the front court, it's apparent, Trevor, that you love the backcourt and I love the front court in this matchup. That should say something for two guys that know ball.
It's completely fair. Yeah.
I'd like NC State to win this game. I think Edey will dominate as he has all tournament long. I think Edey is the best player in the tournament. Purdue fans, please don't hate me. I will take NC State to play UConn.
For some reason, I believe you. Like, I believe that you actually believe that. Like, I believe that you believe that. I'm not making
I would not go on here and say something that I do not believe at all.
I appreciate that as much as I've made. That's why I intentionally didn't tell you. And if you knew I was a State fan, great. I left it out for a reason until it got brought up. All right, who wins the national championship based on what you just predicted?
I think UConn wins the national championship.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
Um, there's really, I think I would love to see it be a close game. I think it has a chance to be a close game. I don't want to speculate too much into a potential championship game. I won't go too much into it with stats and players. But if UConn and NC State match up, the front court is going to be another show to watch in that game. Diarra, Middlebrooks, they're amazing. So I think UConn will beat NC State in the national championship.
Okay, my last question.
Yeah, go for it.
What result do you want most as a spectator or fan, regardless of the Michigan ties or out? There's nothing other than the Big Ten with Purdue. There's nothing really that would sway you one way or the other. What is there? What do you want as a fan? What do you want as a spectator on Tuesday morning when you wake up?
I would love to see a Klinging versus Edie national championship. I would love to see Purdue UConn.
It's good. Yeah.
I think those are the two best teams that have played all season long. That could be a hot take regarding Purdue. But it's crazy that I picked NC State because I truly believe they can and in my eyes will win the game against Purdue. But to see Purdue, a team that has been wanting this for so long and has gotten so close year in and year out, go against the national champs would be a crazy game to watch. And I know it would get amazing viewership, which is also kind of just exciting in itself to kind of see 100%. College basketball on the main doorstep with millions of people watching. So UConn versus Purdue would be my perfect hypothetical, but I don't think it will be that way.
Just based on what you said, all I'm going to say is this. I'm not going to jinx anything, and we'll get into the NBA stuff at the end of the pod. There was a team in 1983 that a Cinderella team by the name of North Carolina State played that people thought were unbeatable, that were also not undefeated, that have a really famous nickname named Phi Slamma Jamma. They were led by Akeem. I'm just going to leave it at that. People know what I'm talking about. All right. That is all for NCAA tournament stuff. Let's transition into the aforementioned, I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. There's no fancy title. NBA under 24-year-old draft. It sounds crazy, but we'll lay it out like this. I didn't tell you this now or earlier, and I kind of wish I had, but 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. I know that all NBA stuff changed. If I had a vote, I'd still probably keep it the way it was. I'd probably still put 2 guards, 2 forwards, 2 centers. I would maybe cheat on like the third team where like it might have to have 3 or 4 forwards because of just the depth of the position. For the sake of this, we're building a team of 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. We're also going to do a 6-man, and we're also going to do a coach. And I'll lay out the idea of the coach really quick. And the reason we picked 24, I'll get kind of some of the rules out of the way, people, if they're following along. We'll put a poll out once the pod's out, and people can decide. We did under 24 because that would eliminate guys like Luka, who just turned 24 in February, as let's say these teams get put together and play next season, that kind of thing, right? Or what their current age is now. Really no other way to determine it. But 24 because that eliminates Shea and Tatum, and then a bunch of really good 25-year-olds, which feels wrong. But at the same time, this is 2 first-team All-NBA guys. So let's just I want these young guys that we watch every night that are exciting. Obviously, tonight's a bad example. The Thunder are playing. Joel Embiid came back tonight. The Thunder are on TNT, and Shea and Chet are both sitting. So we're talking about them more than they'll get talked about on TNT tonight. So long-winded. My point is 24 highlights a lot of the young guys of young cores that don't get talked about enough potentially. Just guys that we like. This is an exciting part. And obviously the draft will make it fun because I'll probably have somebody that you wanted and vice versa. So, and then the coaches. We wanted to throw a head coach out there because I think there's an incredible amount. There's more young coaches than there is old coaches right now. I think we've reached that point. We are going to be going with coaches that have coached less than, I think I texted you, 325 games, which basically is less than 5 seasons, right? Somewhere in it, I think it teeters like 4.5. Some notable names that it eliminates: Nick Nurse, Tyronn Lue, J.B. Bickerstaff, Jason Kidd, Billy Donovan, Mike Brown, Quinn Snyder, Monty Williams, Steve Kerr, Steve Clifford, Mike Malone, Frank Vogel, Tom Thibodeau, Eric Spoelstra. These are obviously Hall of Famers at this point. Rick Carlisle, Doc Rivers, Greg Popovich. So basically it keeps all the really young, good head coaches. So now that the rules are out of the way, you're the guest. You have the first overall pick, and I'll keep our rosters going as we go and keep yours as well in case I forget a pick or a player.
Awesome. I think, first of all, this was a perfect age to kind of set that line at because
Correct.
I love talking potential. I absolutely love talking potential. And you're absolutely right. So many of these guys do not get enough media buzz. So why not give them a little more? Because they are great basketball players. With my first pick, I will be taking Victor Wembanyama.
Shocker.
He's a player. He's a unicorn. I think he's the unicorn of unicorns. he knows how to play basketball. He's doing it at a young age. He's already, in my eyes, an all-star, even though he didn't get that nod this year. He's playing like an all-star on a depleted Spurs team. He's going to be very good. I don't think I need to talk about him too much. First overall pick.
It's fair. I'm kind of like I gave again being nice. Guess gets first pick, whatever. Here's the thing though. Even though I think that might sway the poll, because I think Spurs fans are going to vote for you. There's no questions asked there, right? Not that I'm trying to like game the poll here. I want to win, right? I'm a competitive guy. 100%. I knew that you would take Victor. I probably would have too, to be real with you. But I wanted a guy really bad, and I knew it wasn't going to be Victor.
Is it Tyrese?
Anthony Edwards. I'm taking Anthony Edwards without a doubt. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with this guy. But like anything that coaches and players are saying that is the it factor, he has it. He's an incredible player. He's going to lead this team to heights that they probably never have, whether it's this year or in the future. But just a guy that I believe in for the face of the league, not only as the franchise player, but a face of the league, a guy that's an American-born player that people are excited about, kind of breaking through the mold of what we see with current international guys. I mean, the first pick you just took was an international guy, and both are really good things. But Anthony Edwards is a guy that we're excited to have around at such a young age and to be so competitive and be so incredible. So Anthony Edwards is my pick at guard.
Straight up, I think just one of the toughest players to guard in the NBA already. Just one-on-one. It is very hard to stop him from getting into the lane. Great pick. I think second overall pick, I'm going to go Ja Morant to kind of compliment Victor a little bit.
Okay.
To me, he's a guy, when he is playing and when he has a good roster, I think he's a top 15 player in the league. And he showed it last year in the playoffs. Man, Ja Morant can score the basketball.
That's interesting. Not that I didn't have him on the board. I'm trying to figure. Not that I didn't have him on the board, but I obviously all the stuff that hasn't been playing injury wise and some other things.
Oh, okay. If you don't, I can pick someone new for sure.
Saying, this was that's my logic. I would have taken him. I think there are other guys that I believe in. So that's good. No, I like this. This is good. Oh, this is tough. This is so tough because like there's guys that like I know that I really want, but then I know I'm also going to be leaving a ton of guys off, and then people are going to freak out. Like I can't wait for like the 5 minutes at the end when we're done to be like, oh my god, we left these guys off. No,
oh for sure.
But it is what it is, and I'm trying to play around with StatHead and kind of like what's the best barometer for like okay, I have it sorted by 24 and younger. Win shares will obviously include guys like Luka. I don't want to name a bunch of names because obviously those are potential picks. Edwards is 8th on that list in win shares. Obviously, these are all young guys, something to think about. There are so many better players, but I want to build a team. And as good of as I love Anthony Edwards as a defender, even though I don't love the point guard I'm about to take, I'm going to take Tyrese Halliburton. I had a chance to take him, and I honestly thought you were taking him with the job pick. So I was elated to get him. So I'll take him. No further explanation from me needed because he's an incredible guy, incredible player.
He is.
So, all right, you're up with I guess it would be the 5th overall pick, your third player.
So with my third pick, to compliment Ja and to compliment Wemby, I will be taking Zion Williamson.
Yeah, I was wondering how long I didn't think he'd last this long, to be honest with you.
If Ja is kind of the injury bug right now, Zion is the complete opposite. He has been on an absolute tear. Pelicans are playing well. I think it's a fine third pick.
All right, so I'm at this weird roadblock because you're probably not going to take the guy that I want. Like I'm like already getting my own head. This is why I can never be a GM or like I can never do
right.
like this. Like there's a clear, obvious pick that I think would match up against your team really well, and you have no reason for taking him, so I'm not going to take him. I'm going to let him stay on the board, and I'm going to start getting other guys and figure that out. Oh, this is so tough. I don't want to, like, for the podcast sake, I don't want to sit here and lollygag, but I also kind of want to figure out a good pick that I feel like I'm leaving off. It's so hard because Luka, like, on this list, we both found a list with Luka as 25 or 24, 25. Right. And I have to, like, look past Luka. I keep, like, looking at him.
Every single time.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, crap. I'm going to take Paolo. Even though I think there are better fits on my team potentially, I do like Paolo. I know the connection with him and Edwards. This is all hypothetical. These guys are never going to play together on this team. But my point is the hypothetical was Anthony Edwards and Paolo played together in Team USA this summer, and it was incredible. So I think that helps. This team's chemistry. To be clear, I'm putting him at the 4. I don't care what his. Oh, he's a forward. Never mind. He's not even registered as a center. So I'll take Paolo with the 4.
Gosh, that's a good pick. And now this is where it gets tough for me because, like you said, I'm in the same scenario of like trying to find guys that fit, but there's so many tough guys left on the board. Oh,
What's crazy is Ja. Like I didn't even like. I technically didn't even have him on the board. He's 24. God bless America. Like stat heads. I'm trying to figure out. Maybe it's because it's this season. I have it sorted by this season only, so maybe that's why. But okay. Anyway, sorry. I'm just talking while you're thinking.
no, you're
Trying
good.
to fill time. Oh man, Victor.
I think at the 2 spot, and gosh, this could go a lot of. I think at the 2 spot, I'll go Cade Cunningham and put him at the 2.
Yeah, I think there's one guy there. That's who I thought you'd take.
Cade on ball, I think, is a lot better than he is off ball. So in this offense, Ja and Cade would would go up the court, I think, equally. I would love to see Ja play off ball, especially with a Wemby kind of in that center position. So I think Cade slides in nicely at that 2.
All right. Man, this is tough. I gotta organize it by points now. I need a scorer. Actually, I technically don't need a scorer, but I also don't want to be dumb here and take the wrong pick and forget some guy. Yeah, the shooting guard position's tough.
It is.
I'm starting to notice that. Like you had to take a point guard technically, but he's a 6'6" point guard. So I mean, you have ultimate line of flexibility, and ultimately, I don't have any problem with it. I'm sure people will, but there's so much depth at other positions. I'm actually willing to take this guy. I'm willing to bolster my bench this early. I'm gonna take J-Dub. I'm gonna take Jalen Williams and put him at the 6th man. I don't think he's technically a forward. Let me just make sure. What's crazy? I'm just as soon as I made the pick, I'm not taking it back to be clear. As soon as I made the pick, I looked over and I saw another name that I forgot about, and I went, "Oh crap!" So hey, this is just the fun of this. Jalen Green's also available. I shouldn't be saying that, but you get my point. About the shooting guard position. Let me see. Let me find J-Dub. I am totally blind here. I'm going to make sure he's technically considered a guard. I know that can be weird, so I'm just trying to make sure that we're not. He's considered a guard based on Basketball Reference. I'm going to take their word for it. So he plays a lot of like 2-3 sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure. So anyway, long-winded. Jalen Williams is my last pick, or my next pick at 6th man. You are up with your 5th player. Or 5th person, technically. Coaches are still available. So
I'm gonna take the same strategy as you. I'm gonna go to 6th man. I'm gonna take Darius Garland with my 6th man.
Oh my god, this list is correct. Like I am missing so many guys. This is great. Like I need to scroll down. I need to figure out the best way to sort this because
to be honest with you, I think J-Dub is an incredible pick. He was in my fantasy basketball league this year. I had him on my roster, and he single-handedly won me the league. Just talk about a fantasy beast. It's J-Dub. But yeah, Darius Garland, I think will slide in nicely. Gives me some shooting with Ja and Cade. I think he slides nicely at my 6th man.
Dang it. Actually, you know what? Not dang it. I actually still am going to get one of my favorite players. So this is perfect. All right. And you just took, remind me one more time, Garland. Yep, I didn't write it down immediately like I probably should have. All right. So I need to stay closer to a microphone. That'll be more work later, I'm sure. All right. So I'm going to take, even though I think there are probably better fits, this is a spacing team. This is a team that can play fast with Halliburton and Edwards. I feel weird taking 2 Orlando Magic players, but I'm going to take Franz Wagner. I love Franz Wagner, and he is I will continue to say this the rest of my life, career, whatever. He is my biggest draft miss probably ever. Like, I don't think I ever did actually a ranking or board that year. I did not think he was going to be a great NBA player. I did not think this level was my point. Like, I probably had him in the 20s, 30s, whatever. This is out of any realm of possibility I would have ever had. So I'm going to take Franz Wagner. I think he fits really well, obviously next to Paolo, but as a spacer, as a floor runner as well.
Yeah. Did you watch Wagner tape at Michigan at all or no?
I know there was a connection there. He
was a beast, Trevor.
I saw like Davis Bertans flashes, and not that Davis Bertans hasn't been bad. Okay. Like he's had incredible shooting stretches in his NBA career. I saw a really low floor, and I just never saw second best player on a potential what they're going to be the 4 seed as it currently sits.
That's nuts.
I'm correct. Let me look it up actually because they are currently going to if the season ended today, which is not that far away. The Magic would be NBA playoff. The NBA website and app has has already updated. When you click on standings, it no longer shows you the standings; it shows you the bracket now. So we're getting real close. They're tied with the Knicks. They have the tiebreaker. They're the 4 seed. They're both 44 and 31. That is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll take Franz Wagner for all those reasons we just talked about for the last 3 minutes.
So. Gosh. Okay. I need a small forward.
So did I. That's why I wanted to get him out of the way. I think there's I think there's one guy, the guy that I looked over and went, oh crap. I think there's one guy left that's a really good choice. I think there's no bad choice to be clear.
Can I slide him in? Gosh, let me know. I mean, I don't know if the people watching will be okay with this, but
I'll just go off their position on Basketball Reference. That's how you can do what you want. Technically, I'm not going to cry about it. I'm going to look at their position just as a curiosity point.
I have to get Scotty Barnes off the board.
Oh yeah, he's a guard forward. We're good. Yeah, he's as long as it's listed. I don't care. Yeah, guard forward. That's perfect. I think he's more of the fact that he's listed guard dash forward is kind of crazy. I think he's more as a forward. So
me too.
That's good with me. Scotty Barnes. That's by the way, that's the pick I was talking about.
Nice.
I looked over and I went,
yeah.
All right. Funny enough, we both left head coach for last. Shocker. But it'll just be whoever, you'll get the first choice, I think, at the head coach there. So, this is interesting. So I think we both know exactly who I was referring to earlier as I'm going to leave him alone and I'll come back to him because I know he'll be available, right? Just at that point, I'm being GM brain, right? So you already took Victor. I would be insane. You know what? Here, one more time. Let me just organize it by this position. Let me just.
There are so many talented big men that are under 24.
There are. The issue is there's only like a handful that are worth being on like this level of a team, right? And the reason I would say that is Chet Holmgren has to be the pick. Like because of Victor alone, like just the matchup there. I'd be dumb if I didn't take Chet. So what's really, again, the whole GM thing. That's what made this so fun. And I whether you're on Trivia Showdown in the future, whatever, we need to do another draft like this because
we have to.
This is really fun. Chet, because of all the reasons we've already talked about with Chet for months, years, whatever. Now, there's an incredible rotation of big men at this age, but like Şengün is another one I really thought about hard. But if I'm talking about a team I think can win head to head, because that's technically how these people are going to have to be voting on it, is Chet and Victor. We've seen those guys defensively go at each other this year a lot. So I have to take Chet for that reason alone.
Were you contemplating JJJ at all or no?
I was. Yeah, that was the guy. That was the guy earlier that I looked up. I don't know if it was before we recorded or I think it was before we recorded. I was trying to figure out the 24-25 thing to see if StatHead was accurate, and I looked up a random guy that was 24, and it was Triple J.
Nice. Okay.
So I was curious about him too. I'm like, is he even? Honestly, I thought he was too old, but yeah, somehow he's not. So. Before we do head coach, John Morant, Cade, Scotty Barnes, Zion, and Victor for you as the starting lineup. You can obviously switch Garland in for Ja or switch, there's a bunch of versatility there. Garland as the sixth man. I have Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards as my backcourt, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and Chet in the front court with J-Dub or Jalen Williams as the sixth man. Last thing we have is head coach. I wanted to highlight some head coaches, and you have the last pick here.
Yeah, so immediately my mind went to two coaches, and I'll say both of them because we only have one pick here. Chris Finch and Mark Dagenhall. And I'm going to go Mark Dagenhall just because of, I think, the rotation I have right now. I would love to see Cade Cunningham, first of all, with a good coach. I would love to see just that happen. I don't think Monty Williams is that right now. Maybe one day he will be back to the peak he was, but right now I don't think he is. But I will be selecting Mark Dagenhall for my coach for this stacked roster.
Yeah, let's pick the best coach on the best young team in the league and the West. And, I think let me just make sure. Yep, number one seed in the West still have the tiebreaker over the Nuggets. So, shocker there. Funny enough, this list wasn't supposed to technically target young coaches. Most of the guys that have a short amount of career games coached based on the criteria I laid out earlier and told you off recording. Chris Finch is 54 years old.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're like, he's a young career, talking about how many games he's coached. He has coached, according to this list, 205 games. So he perfectly qualifies for our criteria. If we're talking young coach, it's just funny that we didn't set an age limit for that. I didn't want to,
for sure.
I didn't want to, pull the list down or whatever. So,
no, I think it's great. And
Dagenhalt, I can always mess his name up every time. He was born in 85. So that would make him 39. So still pretty young there. Absolutely. Not even in your 40s and you're coaching a 1 seed in the West. I'd say that's a pretty
Yeah.
good result. So I think it's a great
Especially
pick.
like what, in like year 4 too, is this, or year
Yeah.
3 maybe?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Let's go back. I had it right there. He was at, I've actually done his history before with the Thunder guy's been on the podcast 1,000 times, big Thunder
Nice.
fan, do a lot of NBA shows with him. Dagnall has an interesting history, not to derail what we were asking about, but it kind of speaks to it. Holy Cross as an assist. This is obviously not including any previous experience before 2007, probably high school, whatever. Holy Cross assistant, Florida assistant with Billy Donovan, uh, Oklahoma City Blue from 14 to 19, and then he was a Thunder assistant. And they like pulled him up and down the bench from the Blue. I find that fascinating. And then from 2020 to now. So yeah, really interesting history for him under Billy Donovan. So,
Holy Cross. Jeez. Shout out Holy Cross.
Yep. Who had Holy Cross women who against Iowa, they were projected, the spread was like 39.5 or something stupid like that, and they covered by like 15 points. So
Oh my God. And they won their first game too, didn't they? They won the play-in?
I think they did.
Nice.
I think they won their whatever you call that.
Look at us talking about Holy Cross women's basketball.
It's nuts. So here's the problem. I wrote in my pick already on my paper, but now I'm second guessing myself. So you mentioned guys you automatically like just narrowed it down to. I narrowed it down to 3.
Nice.
And those 3 are the guy you took, so we'll kind of eliminate him. Taylor Jenkins, who technically counts 309 out of 325 there. And the pick I'm going to go with is Will Hardy. Will Hardy is an unreal coach, and the fact that the only reason the Celtics even like let him go was because it was a head coaching opportunity. I'd let him go. Obviously, it's his free will to interview and all that stuff. But like the Celtics, imagine this team who's probably going to end up being a 67, 66 win team with Will Hardy as the lead assistant helping Joe Mazzulla, right? That doesn't even include Charles Lee that's already on the bench. That doesn't even include Sam Cassell that's already on the bench. I went with Will Hardy. The fact that the Jazz were even in a position that they were in last year is incredible, and it just speaks to him more than it speaks to the depth and roster of the team. So Will Hardy. In recap, your team was John Morant, Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, Zion Williamson, Victor Wembanyama. Sixth man was Darius Garland. Head coach was Mark Daignault. My team finished out as Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, J-Dub, and then Will Hardy. So I don't have the easy way to vote for this. I think we got a good matchup. I do too. I think it's a great 2 teams here. The best way to do this will be once this pod is actually out and people have had time to listen to it, maybe Thursday. I'll put up a tweet that'll tag both of us. That's the only way I can really do the poll. Yeah. I may come up with a graphic. We'll figure it out. We'll put it out there. People will vote. Maybe we'll throw it in the group chat. You have a group chat.
Chalkboard group chat. Oh yeah.
Maybe we'll throw it in there and let people decide. You got some active people in there. So that is my segue to plug away. So let people know where they can find you. Talk about Chalkboard. Talk about anything. We'll like I said, I think that's a good idea. I think we'll throw the if you're cool with it, I think we'll throw it in there as well. So talk about anything 100%. Like that, plug your stuff, whatever you want.
So obviously my full time is going to be on TikTok. You can reach me there at both basketballs. Instagram, always DMs are open. Twitter or X, DMs are always open too. You want to talk ball. And then Chalkboard is where kind of all the people I talk to, the people that are kind of affiliated with my stuff, that like my stuff, are on Chalkboard. It's a free group chat, totally free to join. The link is in my link tree. Find it on all my socials. Really kind of easy process too. Don't really want to make it complicated for anyone. Kind of get into the group chat, talk ball, introduce yourself. We always love it. It's a really tight community in there too, which is crazy because there's like 1,600 members. So it's just a really great group of guys and girls. Anyone is invited.
I love it. At both basketballs, everything for you will be linked in the description below. Again, I'll have the Chalkboard link and everything. People will jump in there. We'll put the poll for the under 24 draft in there as well. I told you at the top before we even got started that you had an invite back for Trivia Showdown. That obviously is open and ready. I'm excited. We got to figure out a challenger for you. I try to do, long story short here for the new listeners and for you as well. In the summer, instead of just doing nothing or talking about TBT as much as I love it, I have a show that we created a couple years ago, Trivia Showdown. 2 former guests, 10 questions, 2 multiple choice, 8 free answer, and some other fun categories in there. It's supposed to be really hard. You're supposed to learn something. You're supposed to have fun. So, and there's a finale in there as well. We got to figure out a challenger. Obviously, it's got to be NBA and college basketball split up there. But I've already been putting questions together for months.
Awesome.
Super excited. Look forward to have you back.
I want John Rothstein.
You're right. Look, hey, look, if you can find a way to get John Rothstein on this podcast, like, look, anything's possible. We had
For
yesterday
sure.
on Everything College Basketball, Seth Davis dropped by for 10 minutes. It was
Awesome.
unreal.
Gosh.
Like, I still cannot, like, I'm still like waking up going, that really happened, isn't it? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So shout out to Seth Davis, certified good guy. So but yeah, if you can get John, I don't care. John Rothstein, we'll pick a challenger, former guest the last couple of months, whatever, right? I'm open to anything. If there's anybody that you interact with that wants to challenge, I'm up for it. We got it. So
Yeah.
we'll get that planned here in the summer. Once the NBA Finals concludes, there'll be a small little lull there, and then they get started immediately right after the finals. So we'll get those running in a few months. But again, thank you so much at both basketballs. Everything will be linked below as well. Give Ethan a follow. Thank you again, my friend.
Of course, I would love to be back on talking NBA. We get playoffs rolling around. I genuinely appreciate you getting me on the show.